That March date's 3 weeks from now.
Right. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Silmarillion Film Project. This is session number 7 of season 8. As we continue our pre-production meetings here in the writer's room, I am joined by our core writing team. We've got Marie Prosser and Nick Palazzo and Ilana Moshin joining us from the tropics of Australia today. And hopefully Dave K will be able to join us a little bit later on. Today we're going to be doing some world building, really. Like, this is one of the biggest kind of world building things that needs to happen, because we're going to be talking about the outlaw story, and that is not just the particular narrative of Turin's time with the outlaws, but we need to think about who these people are, where they're coming from, what's going on with them, because they're gonna, that whole section of the map, that whole kind of vague, the group of people from whom Turin's outlaws and Turin and Beleg's band are drawn, are going to play roles in several stories in the wanderings of Hurin, at least, and I would think of Morwen also, in the later stages. So we need to kind of spend some time. This is, of course, something that Tolkien himself did much more of later in his career, in his later thoughts and revisions and developments of things. In particular, what Christopher Tolkien has published under the heading, the chapter, The Wanderings of Hurin, in The War of the Jewels, is one of the places where you can go to read a lot of that stuff. But anyway, it's clear that Tolkien was increasingly interested in this idea of who these people were, and what was going on, and involving them in the story. So we're going to spend some time working at that, because we want to make sure that when we our first opportunity to interact with these folks is going to be with Turin and the outlaw band, on both sides, both the outlaws themselves and the people who have outlawed them. Basically, people, the society from which they have been outlawed. So we want to have a clear idea of this, definitely with an eye, again, not only to this, but also to the future. So that's going to be our focus. We spent last time looking at the Dorloman situation, and now we're continuing to think about human culture, but moving a little south and figuring this stuff out. David Michael Roberts on Twitch calls The Wanderings of Hurin the cure for happiness, which it's fair.
If there's one thing we have too much of around here.
That's right. Just in case anyone had any glimpse of cheerfulness remaining after the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, we need to put a stop to that. David Michael Roberts also agrees that going south is the perfect way to characterize what we're going to be doing there. Anyhow, but before we get locked into this, way to sell this, David Michael. Like, we're excited. No, seriously, it'll be good. This is going to be great. I promise it won't be too depressing. Okay, no, I'm not going to promise that, because that's probably more than I can promise. But I don't think it'll be too bad. We'll be fine. Quick announcements. We do have a whole bunch of upcoming events that are coming up. Our very full spring moot season is continuing apace. We just had SoCal Moot this past week, and we're coming up on Sunshine Moot next month in March. Myth Moot, of course, is happening in Leesburg, Virginia, June 25th to 28th. Really, really excited for Myth Moot, which is the heart of our event year. We do also have, for those of you who are in Europe, we have our Euromoot, which is like Osmoot, a 3-day moot in Europe for folks traveling in to be able to spend some time. And where we're traveling into this year is Prague. Actually, we're having Euromoot in Prague, from the 2nd to 4th of October. So registration for that has officially been opened, so that our Prague-based Euromoot in October is official, and we're getting ready for that. We are also preparing for Kiwi Moot next year, which is going to be very exciting. Osmoot has been rotating about, and it's rotating over to Wellington, New Zealand, and being recalled for the year Kiwi Moot. So we're going to have an amazing 3-day Kiwi Moot in Wellington. But there's more. In addition to doing our 3-day moot, we're going to be road tripping around New Zealand. A whole bunch of folks, as a significant subset of the people attending the moot, are going to be road tripping for like 4 days in the North Island before the moot, and like another 6 days after the moot. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be 2 weeks total. So the total dates of the entire experience is going to be from the 1st to the 14th of February. And with the moot being the first weekend there in the middle, Friday through Sunday there in the middle in Wellington.
And it is summer.
And it's going to be summer. So it'll be for those of us up here in the Northern Hemisphere. For many of us, it'll be it's always for me a very striking seasonal break to head down there. So a lovely 2 weeks in summer, touring about New Zealand together with guided by some native New Zealanders who are really excited to show everybody around. So that is coming up. I will have some more information on that soon, and we will be sharing that and starting to collect interest, and then eventually some deposits, and then we'll be making some concrete plans. Because unfortunately, we don't have infinite space. Like, we can't have 500 people coming around with us, so we're probably going to have a cap on the number of people who can come on the road trips with us. So we're seeing about that. But anyway, more on that soon. Okay. So we're starting with the map again, which is really, really useful. So let's kind of start off by getting our heads around, at least my head around, the overall geography and how that features in here. Okay, so our major points of interest. We've got Nargothrond down here in the south. So on the edge, in the gorge, right, like where Nargothrond goes through the mountains down here, these hills down here, Nargothrond is right here down in the south, at the southern end of this whole plain, right, Talath Dirnin, in which Amun-Ruth is over here in the middle on the right-hand side, right? Okay. Doriath, of course, is over here. And so the Girdle of Melian is surrounding here, but then the Forest of Brethil is just so north of Amun-Ruth. So we've got Talath Dirnin lying between the Forest of Brethil and Nargothrond. And then another very important sort of geographical spot in these stories for the Turin stories, the crossings of Teglin down here. And so this is where the road from Silmarillion comes down. So the road from the pass through in the north. You can just see the Crissaegrim and where the entrance to Gondolin would be, right up at the very top of this map, and you can just see the pools of Ivrin and the mountains right to Dorloman. So Morwen is going to be coming over here and coming over these mountains, bypasses. So is Turin, right? When they are escaping, when the family of Hurin is escaping from Dorloman, they're going to cross the mountains here and come across and into Doriath, which means they're going to be going right past the Forest of Brethil. The crossings of Teglin are important because all of the north-south traffic. So when Silmarillion, of course, is now controlled by Morgoth, right? So the orcs can come and go into Talath Dirnin all they want. And that is a really important thing to remember. That has a huge impact on what we're talking about today, on the settlements of the humans here. So they cross here at the crossings of Teglin. So this is how the crossings of Teglin come up, because they this is a place where, like, if you want to, like set up an ambush or something like that, the crossings of Teglin are a great place to set up the ambush, because it's a choke point where the armies of Morgoth have to cross. The ravines of Teglin, of course, just here south of the crossing. So this is where Glaurung is eventually going to get stabbed in the underbelly, right, by Turin, as he is crossing the Teglin by taking a shortcut into the forest of Brethel. Okay, so that's where we are. Now, let's talk about the human settlements that we have here, because so far we have dealt with the human population in Beleriand as if it is only 3 particular populations, right? We've got the people of Beor, whom we originally took to Nargothrond and then sent up to Ladros, and then were mostly wiped out, but not. And then the House of Hador, which we sent up to Dor-lómin, just like Tolkien does. And then we have the Haladin, the people of Haleth, who land in the forest of Brethel. And of course, we described, Haleth and their journey here through the Nandun Gortheb along the northern edge of Doriath, and the respect that Haleth won from Mablung and Beleg, especially Beleg, and Haleth's slaying of Tevildo, which was a fun story back in, was that season 5? Yeah, season 5? Yeah. And then the Haladin settling down there. Of course, this is where the survivors of Ladros settle down, right? Led by Emeldir, when she leads the refugees out, and then Barahir and his outlaw band remain up in Dorthonion. Emeldir and the survivors of the House of Beor come down here, and it was, of course, from here that they then go up to Dor-lómin to join the House of Hador. Emeldir leads them out again, and that's how they end up there, and how Morwen and Rian ended up there in Dor-lómin, marrying Hurin and Huor, as we discussed in the previous season. Okay, so who are these outlaws? There are 2 words that Tolkien uses to describe these people, different elements of these people. He talks about the outlaws, and he talks about the woodmen. Now, the woodmen who live on the edge of the forest, when you meet the woodmen in The Children of Hurin, say, they sound strikingly similar to the woodmen that you meet on the edges of Mirkwood in The Hobbit. Right, the ones whom the eagles are unfriends with, right? You may remember, the ones who would shoot at the eagles because they would be afraid they'd be after their sheep, and normally they would be right, as the Lord of the Eagles cheerfully admits. So that, within the sort of context of Tolkien's story world, those are the things, and so therefore, I always associate. It's hard for me to shake that connection out of my head. So I always sort of culturally associate the woodman that he describes here with Bjorn, and therefore to a lesser extent with the Bardings of Dale and those kinds of peoples who are in a similar sort of geographic situation.
I didn't ever make that association before. I think I always, because the people of Haleth became woodmen in my mind,
right?
Because they were living in the forest, I always just assumed these were the people of Haleth.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things to me, how unclear that is. And in part, I suppose it's because the people of Haleth are not totally centralized and don't have a strong monarchy and that sort of thing. But I mean, I always get the impression when I read the Turin story that culturally speaking, the woodmen and the outlaws are not the same as Dorlas and Brandir and the rest of the who are explicitly of the House of Haleth. Brandir has the pedigree, right, from the House of Haleth. And it's not that I'm not suggesting that they're totally disconnected people. Surely the woodmen must be. I mean, they're not a wholly separate group of people that migrated into Beleriand. They have to be related to them, and yet they seem to be culturally different from them to some extent.
Sorry, Marie.
Oh, sorry. They do seem to be living independently on homesteads, rather than associated with other groups. So either they are people of the folk of Haleth who just live on the edges of the forest and never talk to the rest of the group, or they're the refugees from Dorthonion who came down and, yes, settled by Brethel, but never actually joined the folk of Brethel. So they could also be remnants of the House of Beor who didn't go to Dorloman, but didn't leave Brethel, but didn't join anything. So they're just these woodsmen now.
Right.
The problem with the
So
Beor
there seem to
one
be the
is-
two main
is
options for them.
The Beor one problem is it was women and children who came. Like, they weren't, you know, like that. It would
The
be hard.
remnants of the army as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because remember, the outlaws is only the outlaws who are Barrier's group
Yeah.
was only like 14 guys.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So-
we also have fewer generations than Tolkien gave us to play with cultural. I mean, I think we've got enough time in human lifespans to have kind of cultural shift within these communities as well.
Yeah, it doesn't take that
No.
long, especially under circumstances like this, for things to change fairly significantly.
Yeah.
So are we imagining the Woodmen then as the like a sort of separatist element, not politically separatist, like I'm not thinking of, you know, Phantom Menace here, but just people who kind of are originally from the people of Haladin, or possibly from the people of Beor, or a combination of the two of them. I mean, it has been the better part of a generation since that happened. I mean, like, Rian was a child when the refugees of Beor came to Brethil, and now, you know, she's married and having a kid. So, like, clearly there could be many people who came down and who are now adults, right? You know, who were like teenagers or whatever when they were part of the refugees, and who are now adults and who stayed. So those who didn't go on to Dorloman with the rest of the people of Beor. So we've got some remnants of the people of Beor, some fringe elements. It's like basically anybody who doesn't stay in. So we're imagining a central community in the Forest of Brethil, with Brondir at its head, which is like, that's the, you know, where presumably in the same spot where, you know, Andreth visited Haleth on the way north, right? In that episode that we did there.
Amon Obel is a hill in Brethil where there is a settlement of some sort. I don't think the Haladin are that centralized, but whoever's in charge of them probably lives in Amon Obel.
Right.
We did depict that for example, in the Gondolin episode.
Right. Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
We had Haldir in a hall and so on. So
yeah. But I agree. It doesn't mean that the Haladin as a people all live gathered in some kind of woodland metropolis, right? I mean, they are going to be scattered around, but there is a center of power.
Yes.
And Amon Obel is the center of power, and so we would be imagining for them so what they probably have, like, at least annual gatherings, like Icelandic Althing-esque gatherings or something like that. They probably owe some sort of loyalty to the House of Haleth, possibly. I mean,
We showed that with House of Hador before they moved to Dorloman. We've never shown anything quite like that with the Haladin, because the way they came together as a group, they were just isolated homesteads when they came over the mountains. The way they came together as a group was they got attacked, and then Haleth led them. So after the death of Haleth and the lack of things attacking them, there's not necessarily a strong motivation to keep any kind of cohesive.
Right.
There was a sense of an army though when in the Gondolin episode, because Haldir sends people out to protect the borders and so on. So there's a sense of, at least at that time, I mean, and maybe that was one of the times where people would come together. I mean, you know, that's possible.
Well, there's different ways that something like that could be handled. So, for example, if at the time Handir's father.
Haldir.
Okay, yeah. If he had, like, if the people he was sending out at the time were mostly people who lived in, at Amenoble, right? They may not go to, levy up the outer villagers, like the outer homesteaders, in a situation like that. But in the case of, say, the Near-Ninth, they probably did. Right. They probably were able to muster a much larger force than just like his,
he would have like a war band. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right. He probably has something on something of a war band that he is able to call on in a moment's notice to handle something like what we were talking about.
Right. That's presumably what we were seeing in the opening of the Gondolin episode with the ambush of the orcs and who are infighting with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so at the time that we're talking about, we have the as you say, the center of power at Amenoble, where Brondir is. However, I would be willing to guess that after the Near-Ninth, the control of the House of Haleth has severely diminished.
I was thinking the same thing. He's got no warband anymore. I mean, the warband is dead.
Right. The
and the levies from the
So
more Haladin escaped than other groups.
Than the people of Dorloman. Yes.
Yeah. So they're not all completely decimated.
Fewer went too. Like not everyone went.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
So between the two, there's some.
But I would imagine that either way, between the loss of goodwill and loss of life, I would imagine that a lot of the most loyal guys probably got unalived, as they say these days. Through the Near-Ninth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Haldir died.
Yeah.
Right. So one would suspect that all of his like right and left hand guys were right there.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I've always felt that the leadership of the House of the Haladin by the crippled from youth Brondir was always a kind of quasi allegorical kind of statement about the situation in Brethil, essentially. Like not explicitly allegorical, but like almost allegorical.
By the time he takes control, he's almost a type of the House of Haleth being bereft of real power.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Brondir's
he couldn't even lead a war band out if he wanted to.
Right. Exactly. His inability to lead a war band, his powerlessness. I mean, it's such a feature of Brondir's powerlessness is such a feature of the back end of the Turin story. That again, it just always seemed to me to kind of like dovetail almost perfectly with his actual physical liabilities as well.
Yeah.
So yes, I certainly agree. So if we imagine, therefore, so we've got. So let's think of the history of the Haladin in stages here. Between Haleth's establishment of their settlement at Amenoble and the arrival of the House of Beor is like the first stretch of their time there, right? And Haleth certainly, although as you say, they were like a bunch of people that Haleth just kind of gathered together, she did gather them, right?
But there's a cult of personality around her specifically.
Right, agreed.
And so when she passes away, there starts to be a decline in the power of the house.
But it is declining from a fairly high point there, at her death. So it begins with a strong central leadership, if not a strong central government, strong central leadership from Haleth.
I mean, there's a double wedding.
Yep.
That happens in there, and that to me is a sign of like establishing a nobility, establishing diplomatic relationships with the other Adai.
It suggests a kind of political strength. Yeah. I agree. So that continues, though I agree, Nick, it is presumably declining from its peak under Haleth.
Yes.
But it's still there, and it's still
a slow
strong.
decline. Though.
Right, a slow decline. And I think that then, if the next era begins with the arrival of the House of Baor, right? I mean, again, even that whole situation, like the Haladin, they're the strong ones, right? They're the ones who are able to give shelter and to provide for the refugees of the House of Baor. So they are in, and again, that's a centralized kind of decision. Right, that's not and the individual homesteaders generously gave house room to refugees. Like, no, that was a centralized. We, the Haladin, are going to welcome in these people and give them a place among us. So again, it still shows centrality, and I agree, Ilana, that the double wedding also suggests that kind of political relationship and sense of political identity within the Haladin as well. And here, the glimpse that we showed in the Gondolin episode that we're talking about, that's I mean, we keep coming back to it because it's one of the only things we've ever shown about the Hollow. I mean, there are a few glimpses that we've given, right? There's
we had Luthien and Beren show up.
Luthien and Beren's visit, Andreth's visit, and the beginning of Gondolin are some of the only times we've actually seen the culture there. So if Andreth's visit to meet Haleth is like a glimpse of the, the culture of the Haladin and like the apex of its centralization, right? The beginning of the Gondolin episode with Haldir is like the ending of it, right? Or like the last glimpse of it before it ends, essentially, after its decline. So Haldir is nowhere near in the position that Haleth was, but he still has a warband, has the elite. I mean, if you go to somebody who has a homestead in the southern part of the forest of Brethil near the ravines of Teglin or something, they're going to say, oh yes, Haldir is my lord, and if he calls upon me, I will answer, as they do for the Near Ninth, right? So presumably that, but I agree with Nick's premise that whole era is going to end rather dramatically at the Near Ninth. Because, I mean, I would think the perception, again, in our imagined homestead in the south of Brethil, so even imagining, Marie, as you point out, they don't all die, so even imagining, like, the bedraggled return of, somebody to his homestead down in the south of Brethil, that person, like, the situation, their outlook from that homestead in the south of Brethil is likely to be, and we're on our own now. Like, our lord is no more, his warriors are no more, like, Right.
And we also...
Hondir did survive.
Hondir survived, right.
Right, so they do have a lord still, and he will presumably be able to muster them one last time when Glaurung comes down. Because there is fighting back from Brethil when Glaurung comes through.
Yes.
Hondir dies in that fighting.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the end of that. Because then we're into Brondir. Right.
But I can also imagine of how many of these homesteads the husband and father does not come back.
Return to, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's crippling.
Yes.
To these people.
Presumably, we have increased orc traffic coming down.
And that.
Well, after the Near Ninth, there would have been.
Right. So at this point, they're defending the border of the forest, but they're not leaving the forest and defending anything outside of it. So they're trying to convince the orcs to leave our forest alone. Do whatever you want on the other side.
But the sense of imminent threat is there.
Yeah.
In a way that more than it was. I mean, there were still orcs coming down after the Brugger, presumably.
Which, that's a good thing to kind of segue, which doesn't have to happen right away, into the conversation about the outlaws themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Go on. I do want to hold off on that, but you're right. Like, I'm thinking about that too. I want to first make sure that we have a clear understanding of the society, and then the sub-society, the unsociety, right? The problems of the society.
The petty breathal.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing, actually. Yeah. Yes. The petty Haladine.
But they're not really Paladin now, are they?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I do have a slide with all the names that Tolkien gave us of
characters
and the backstories of the characters.
Yes. Yeah.
If when we get to that point,
we'll get there in a minute. Yeah, I do want to be thinking more specifically about the cast. Like once we get the kind of the big picture settled, yes. I want to go on to the cast of characters so that we can be thinking about storylines specifically more and how we want to integrate that. But yeah, okay, all right. So right after the Dagor, not the Dagor Bragollach, right after the Nirnaeth, then Hondir is still alive. Hondir has survived. So Hondir returns to Amon-Obel. So there is a lord. I think it must be. I think it's clear. So okay. So let's imagine then that if they're still able to defend the borders of Brethil, he must have some warband still, like some capability. He must be able to rebuild some kind of strength in order to defend Brethil and keep the orcs out of it. Because they're not going to just stay out of it.
Just be the warband now. I don't think he's levying.
Right, that's what I was
surrounding
thinking.
Homesteads now.
So we can imagine Amon-Obel as still strong, relatively strong. But yes, the connection with the whole rest of the people is what is breaking. And that does seem to me to fit the feel that we get at the end of the Turin Bar story. Right, the difference between I'm wandering about and meeting woodmen and outlaws, and I'm living, with Niniel and Dorlas and Brandir in what is clearly a community in Brethil. So we have still a community of people at Amon-Obel. Hondir is there, still living in his father's hall. Seated in his father's hall. He still has a warband, though probably not so great as the warband of his father. He realizes that he can no longer levy people from the outlying homesteads. So the concept of the identity, so that would affect both sides, right? That means that the people who live in those homesteads are no longer very likely to say, yes, Hondir is my lord and I owe him my allegiance. I am one of the Haladim, under Hondir. But it also means that the community at Amon-Obel is less likely to think of themselves as a nation, right? They're less likely to think of themselves as a larger group. They think of themselves as a town, right? As a community, a smaller community.
Because as Hondir finds himself in a position where he's unable to call on the outer homesteads and settlements to help with defense, that also means that he can't protect everybody.
Well,
he'll still do his best for sure.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if after the Nirnaeth there is actually a suggestion that people move closer in to Amon-Obel, and
I'm sure some do.
And some do, but some are not willing to leave the homesteads that they've.
And that would be the distinction between the woodmen and
yeah. And so people are invited to come back in, and that's the community that we see at the back end of the Turin story.
That's how he's able to rebuild a warband, is because
but then there are going to be some people who say, no, we'll take our chances. We've built our own life here, and this is where we want to stay.
Well, I'm thinking of specifically homesteads where they lost the husband and father in the war are more likely to return to a larger settlement, and now you have the young men from that crop are now the new warband eventually. So within, I'd say 5 years, you'd start having that happen.
So the theory then would be that the community at Amon-Obel might actually be larger under Hondir than it was under Haldir, because Haldir didn't have such a significant standing population there. That was the center from which he governed, the whole region. Now you're not governing the whole region, you're just governing that community, but many have come to take shelter in that community. So the actual community is bigger, less powerful still, because they still have relative shortage of fighting age men because so many of them died in the Near Knife not so very long ago. You'll have some, strapping 16-year-olds who have joined the warband since then, but like and especially, of course, by the time Turin gets there, it's been now, there's time for a bunch of people to have grown up into it. And so that's where like the Dorlases of the world come from, essentially, right? Well, Dorlas, we might give him a particular story, but
speaking of the young men, in a situation like this, especially as orc intrusions start to become more prevalent, there would be a sense of this is the end of the world,
right?
Like once that happens, you start getting people that don't think that there's anything like that. What is morality?
So now you're talking about the outlaws again. Yes. Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Exactly. No, right. We're almost there. There's one other thing I want to introduce before we get there. But yes, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, this is the end of all things, right? There is no more order.
Yes.
And that the woodmen are part of that equation, right? So the woodmen are the people who have, in this sense, explicitly turned their back on the community. Like the rest of the community is gathered together at Amanobo. They are the ones who have refused. So they have chosen specifically to separate themselves from Hundir and the people at Amanobo. They don't want to. They're not relevant to them. They're now in charge of themselves and running their own stuff.
And individually, like each homestead is
running its own thing. Yes,
and there might be more than one family in a homestead, but like it's.
Yep.
In those days, each man did as he thought best.
Yes.
There is no king.
Exactly
there is no king. Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. We're.
But they're not. They don't see themselves as a collective with each other either.
No. Not at all. Not at all. There may be like relationships and probably intermarriages and things like that between homesteads, but yes, there's no political organization.
It's kind of going back to the pre-Haldad.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Haladin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so that is the environment from which they arise. Now, my one last thing to introduce before we talk about the outlaws. Do we get some? I would think we would have to get some refugees from Dorloman down here, right? Because after the Easterlings arrive, some... When we talked last time, of course, a good deal about what they do and their attempts to resist and stuff, but surely some will flee. And those paths over the mountain are possible, right? And some will take it. And if they take it, they will end up here, right? They'll go over the mountains and they follow the rivers down and hello, here we are with the woodmen in the south of the forest of Brethil, right? So so there have to be, and I think this is important for Turin's leadership later on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why the wearing of the dragon helm is so very popular in this, creates such notable popularity in this place because of people from Dorloman who have ended up down here too. So how do we fit them in? Would
they'd be less likely to be homesteaders on the outskirts?
Or would they have joined themselves to the homesteaders? Some of them, I mean, most of them, some to most of them are going to be women and children fleeing. Right? So, I mean, it's not like they're just going to be like, let us establish our... I mean, and we don't have any reason to think they established their own community necessarily. Although, again, thinking about the wanderings of Hurin, we do get some communities. Go ahead, Mary.
We know that the outlaw band is made up of people from Dorloman. In the names of the characters we get, the ones that are named are from Dorloman.
Right.
And they're there and they're outlaws because they did something wrong.
Right.
So they murdered somebody, or they deserted during the Near Knife, or they had a conflict and they had to leave Dorloman.
So are they outlaws prior to, like, in Dorloman? Or are they outlaws?
I like the idea of them deserting during the Near Knife.
I like that for some of them. So okay, so this is my question. Like, outlaws, because
that implies law.
It does imply law, but it also especially the story of, the story that Tolkien tells in The Children of Hurin, right, with the attempted rape and such, right, that Turin breaks in on. These don't seem to be merely people who are, who have committed crimes in the past, right, whose like rap sheet is following them to Brethil. These are people who have a rap sheet in Brethil, right?
Yes.
And now, again, that's not to say that this is mutually exclusive by any means. But I'm trying to think. So I think the reason I'm thinking the way that I am is that I would love to kind of, like we've done before, I would kind of like to carve up Turin's outlaws into like representatives of different demographics, right? So, so one demographic within the outlaws could totally be deserters from the Nearknife. I love that. I also love that. So let's make sure we have at least one deserter from the Nearknife. Maybe one criminal from Dorloman, right? A Dorloman criminal. But I would think that a bunch of the and here, Nick, I'm coming back around to what you were talking about like, sort of lawlessness and abandonment of morality and things like that. Refugees of Dorloman, who were honest citizens in Dorloman, but have been made refugees by the invasion of the Easterlings. What's going to happen with them? They're going to be looking for a place to live. They're going to come down to Brethil, and what are they going to find? Well, in many cases, they're going to find wooden palisades and people pushing them off, right? Some of them might be welcomed, perhaps, and integrate themselves with the woodmen, but many will not.
Yeah.
And
all
then
it takes
what?
is one ugly confrontation.
Yeah.
Like think about every zombie apocalypse show you've ever had. I mean, this isn't that far off from that, to be honest.
Yeah.
And we would be talking about, if we're talking about men, we're talking about very young men. They would have to be, because they were ones that didn't go to the Nearknife.
Right. Right. Yes.
Yep. So you could add that into the equation too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once these guys get down here, they are armed as people of Hadar would be.
Yeah.
And they find these rather insular little holdings here and there.
Yeah.
Right. And all it takes is one of those talks to go south, and now there's blood. And once there's blood the first time, gets way easier. You have one incident where Lynn's farm gets raided, and all of a sudden now it's all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of the things that I find really interesting about Tolkien's depiction of that quite horrible on many levels incident, right? The attempted rape and Turin's intervention and all that stuff, right? Like, on the one hand, yeah, like those outlaws are hard cases, and like it's really appalling, the rape that they're preparing to. But then, like, the woman after she's rescued is like also a little bit appalling, right? And the attitude of the woodman doesn't seem totally admirable, right? Like the names that they call the outlaws, and I mean, it's like, again, I'm not saying it's the woodmen own fault and they're getting what they deserve, but I'm saying like there's ugly on both sides there. It seems pretty clear. And I think that's the situation that Tolkien was describing. The woodmen are not acting admirable. Just like, again, like that rescued girl is not totally, she's not a totally admirable damsel in distress in that story.
Well, I think it's clear that the conflict between the outlaws and the woodsmen has led to the point that they're kill on sight with each other.
Yeah.
So you can argue over who started that.
Right.
But by the time Turin shows up, the woodsmen have bounties on the heads of outlaws, and the outlaws chase the daughters of the woodsmen through the woods for nefarious purposes.
Turin, who has a sense of morality,
entering into this.
Entering into this. And so this is kind of alien to him.
Yes. And of course, the larger situation that we need to keep in mind is that all of this is heading to the land of Bow and Helm, right? All of this is leading towards not just Turin's immediate change of the circumstances of the outlaws that the outlaw band that he leads, but a cultural change in this entire region, right, around Amon Ruth, which suggests to me that there are lots of people beyond just the individual homesteads that are spread in the south of the Forest of Brethil. There's people living, wandering, perhaps, in this area. I wouldn't be surprised if there were still, like, basically nomadic refugees from Dorloman still living in, on the Talath Dirnin, because they wandered down the rivers from Dorloman and never found a place that would take them, and are still just like scratching out a meager living wherever they can, and that many of these are where the outlaws come from. And again, these are the people that are going to be transformed or like retransformed by the opportunity to join with Turin and Beleg. And, there's that sense of like, many like awoke again to like, higher and noble thoughts.
It's about a 10-year period we're talking about here between the near ninth and when Turin shows up. So
yeah, so there's
plenty of time to.
Yeah, there's plenty of time to. I mean, yeah, there could be whole villages in the Talath Dirnin, out there that have grown up since, which were largely like founded basically by Dorloman refugees who came down. I mean, I've got to think that they're numerous. I mean, we didn't really talk about that. We talked about resistance to the Easterlings last time. We didn't really talk about flight from the Easterlings so much, but I've got to think that a significant portion of the population fled. Yeah.
And they're mostly women and children.
Women and children.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if you're a 5 to 8 year old child, clearly you didn't fight in the near ninth.
Right.
Now we're 12 years later, you're a 17 to 20 year old child.
Yeah, exactly.
No longer a child.
Exactly. I mean, goodness, there could have been 14-year-olds who didn't go to the near ninth, right? Who are now, exactly. Who now have kids,
Right. When Turin meets them, it's 12 years later after the near ninth.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's plenty of time.
Lots of time.
Grow the young men up.
Yeah. And for them to have been raised in the meantime, in a diminished, exigent, desperate refugee culture, which still being told stories about Hador and Hurin and from their mothers, right? But living,
you could think of them like
growing up hard.
Camps, really, couldn't we?
You
think of them like refugee camps.
Yeah, I would think there would have to be refugee camps down there. I mean, almost certainly, right? Because
so now we have woodsman refugee camps and outlaws.
Yes. And here's one of the things that I wonder. I would think there would be outlaws and then outlaws, right? So first of all, I'm guessing that the woodmen look at all of them as outlaws, right? That like all of them, refugee, actual criminal, whatever, that like the woodmen are just like, we have our wooden palisade and we're going to throw rocks at anybody who comes close to it because we're not taking any chances, right? I'm imagining more or less the culture of the woodmen, which means, the people that they characterize as the wolfmen, right? It's the name that they call them. What is it? Gowerwyth? Isn't that the word? They again, some of them in fact do like lurk around trying to rape their daughters, apparently. Like that happens. But I'm sure many of them don't. I'm sure many of them are just refugees, right? Or again, like those people that they distrust that live off to the south. I mean, I would imagine that the refugees would, they would tell stories of them, like stories so often told of wandering peoples, right? Like like the Romani peoples, right? Like they probably tell stories about how they, steal anything that is not nailed down and will run off with your children. I bet the woodmen are telling stories like that, right?
You hear a lot of stories like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing. I'm just guessing that's kind of that would be the perspective of the Woodmen.
Paladin in general were more isolationist and suspicious
Yes.
of outsiders anyway,
Right.
and these are the ones who are even more like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's probably a long-standing cultural tradition of being suspicious of outsiders. Anyway.
right.
Oh yeah.
And then you get an influx of outsiders, and also the trauma of the near knife and the separation and ice and this, like, it's up to us to look after us and nobody's going to come and help us. So,
because they seem to have accepted the Baorians, but that was kind of by fiat.
Right. Exactly. They didn't have a choice there. And again, well, I mean, they didn't know. It's not like, I don't think that like people of that, like Baor were like pushed into their houses, against their will or anything like that. But yeah, culturally speaking, they accepted it. But again, those are the old days, right? That's not anymore.
The House of Baor weren't trying to settle in the homesteads on the south of Brethil anyway.
Right.
At that time.
Right.
So it was less of like these people are actually right there.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, and like I said, like if one confrontation went really bad, news travels fast, man. Like you start getting people hunkering down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because not only do you have like these guys that you can't trust, there's also orcs, right?
Yeah.
And so you have people doing everything they can to ford up because they don't want to get killed by these roving bands, and you don't know who you're dealing with. Somebody shows up at your door and you have food, you don't know that you're going to be able to grow food next year.
Right. So, and yes, you're right that the roving orc bands does qualify my concept of villages of refugees out in Talath Dirnan, because that probably wouldn't last long with roving orc bands running around Talath Dirnan.
Well, you specifically said that they were nomadic. So
possibly, yeah.
Avoiding
the orc bands.
This creates even more like trauma for them. I mean, they're not safe. They can't establish a place of safety for themselves.
Right.
It sounds more and more like
and desperate, So
it sounds more and more like we're writing the Tolkien version of The Walking Dead. Is what we're describing here.
I haven't been thinking zombie film yet, or zombie show yet, but I mean, culturally speaking, I mean, there is something post-apocalyptic about the post-near night. Yeah.
The idea of anything written after the outbreak of zombies is always what happens with the breakdown of society, and Walking Dead is very specifically that story.
Yes. Right.
Not the story of the outbreak, but the story of the no more society.
The collapse of society. Yeah, exactly. And collapse of society is very much what would be, again, especially down here. So we have society retained, right, up at Amanobo. But society, as it has been known in previous generations, is absolutely breaking down in the south. I can even see, I would think there would be, I mean, we've been saying it, but I would just kind of like to formalize it. There's clearly a north-south thing in the Forest of Brethil. Right, the north of the Forest of Brethil is where the focal point to defend against the orcs coming down and everything. They've got the rivers on the other sides, right? So they're vulnerable in the north and west of the forest.
And there's probably not a lot of people living on the outskirts of society there.
Right. No, that's the outskirts. The northern and western outskirts are real dangerous, right? The orcs are there all the time. So yeah, that's where the warband patrols. So I would think that like pretty much like Amanobil, looking at this map, I would think would be in the like southern reaches of the effective land of the Haladin now, and the forest south of Amanobil, that's like Woodman territory, right? That's non-Haladin, no longer. That's where society is collapsed. Now, in a sense, they're also sheltered. They're sheltered by both rivers, so they don't get orc bands coming in to invade them.
You could imagine a diamond shape drawn in there where you have one point at Amanobil and one point at the rivers connection confluence, right?
Right.
And there's within that diamond shape, that's where you're finding all these people.
Yes.
The outlaws might go a little bit further out because, like the real outlaws, right? Because they're kind of prepared to take on like an accidental run-in with a platoon of orcs, right? But nobody's living out there.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I agree. Okay, so we've got this whole refugee situation. So again, let's go back to demographics among the outlaws.
Okay. I have one question before we move on, and maybe we can deal with this later. But the girdle.
Yes.
Where again do we imagine that the border of the girdle is?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because as I recall,
Nivrim is inside the girdle,
saying that
right?
it's on it's beyond the banks of the Nivrim. Right? Didn't we say that?
The forest of Nivrim is inside. Isn't that the bit that's inside? So that one part of the River Syrian will be inside the girdle?
Right. That's what. Yeah.
So the issue is that Luthien is still under the eaves of the trees of the forest of Nivrim when she encounters Huan and the sons of Feanor, who obviously cannot cross the girdle. Right. So while the girdle is on the western side of the Syrian and possibly most of the forest of Nivrim, it ends at some point, and the woods do keep going until the plain. So it's not until the plain, but it's...
So the girdle runs through the forest of Nivrim there.
Yes.
Right.
And then it goes up along the Syrian.
Yes.
And what, along the Mindeb? Dimbar is outside. Right?
Yes.
Because that's where they're fighting all the time.
So
that's where the marches are. So what does it go like? Is the River Mindeb? It doesn't matter too much, I guess, for us whether the River Mindeb is inside or outside the girdle, but it's somewhere around there. Then goes up around Neldarith and around, right?
There's the question that that I want to kind of figure out is there a portion of the girdle that cuts that corner between the Tiglan and Syrian?
Yeah.
Because that would be interesting. I don't know if it would come up, but I feel like it would have to be part of the cultural consciousness of the people living in Brethel that that's a thing.
I would guess if I were a refugee from Dorloman wandering about for a decade, I think I would live close to the girdle, thinking that orcs would be less likely to go there. So that little patch of woods south of the sorry, Taglin is one of those rivers that I mispronounce. It should be Tiglan, shouldn't it, Murray?
Probably.
Technically. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, EI is usually I, right?
I think it's Tiglan, but
yeah, I think it's Tiglan. I that's it's on my short list of names I've mispronounced since my youth. So, anyway, that's why I call it the Taglin all the time. Tiglan, I think, is more correct. If that patch of forest south of the Tiglan, west of the Syrian, right? That especially that little chunk right here, right? If that's near the girdle, or if like Nivrim, the girdle even goes through a portion of the forest there, right? Is like right in the middle of that forest, then this becomes real attractive real estate for refugees, I would think, because the people of like the homesteaders probably don't live south of the Tiglan, right? This forest is probably relatively free on the south bank. And this would be like an orcs would be less likely to approach the girdle, probably. And unlike perhaps the woodmen, whose relationship with elves is going to be dubious, right? Like you could easily imagine, I would expect, in fact, that the homesteaders in the south of Brethil, the woodmen, are like have at least a Rohirric suspicion of the elves, right? If not an even more active suspicion of the elves. But anyway, the refugees from Dorloman are not going to have that attitude towards elves, right? So if they know that, like, this is the border of the magic elf country, they'll have heard of Doriath, right? And even if they aren't super friendly towards Doriath, like, still, they would, I mean, I'm a refugee of Dorloman. That's where I'm moving. You know, as close to the girdle as I can stand.
Yeah. It has the benefit of like the same benefit that you'd have from living like in the shadow of a cliff. Like you're not going to get attacked from at least one direction.
Yeah,
you can.
For sure.
It gives a certain amount of predictability,
and I think even more than that.
And the March Wardens of Doriath are going to the marches and fighting orcs.
Right.
So if you're right in the marches area, there's a chance that someone is actually going to come out of Doriath and protect you. A chance.
Yeah.
And Beleg is the one elf who does have a good relationship with the Haladin. I'm not sure how close he is with the woodsmen in general, but he at least talks to them because that's how he finds Turin. So he's an elf of Doriath who can interact with the humans and likes to do so. Yeah. But his March Wardens are helpful for protection, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would think there would be lots of... And Nivrim, like, there's lots of reasons to live as close to the girdle as you can when everything else has collapsed, when there's no other certainty or safety. I would think that area, you know, that the eastern side of Talath Dirnan and the forests there near the Syrian would be like the most populated by refugees region of that whole place for this reason.
And I'm assuming the D in Doriath masks more forest.
I think so. Yes. Yeah, I think it's continuous forest. Yeah, Nivrim is not just this tiny little, you know, stand of woods north of the fens. Yeah. Yes, I think so. So yes, throughout that forest through which the girdle runs, this is, I think, would be the place where Turin's best recruits for the land of bow and helm would be coming in the latter days. People who have been huddling in fear as close to the girdle as they can, hoping that the orcs won't notice them or will be too afraid to approach.
And who Beleg knows full well are there and in what
Beleg
numbers.
could actually, yes, he would know them. Yeah, he would at least know of them. So again, what I'm kind of coming around to is how literal or how flexible is the word outlaws for us here, because it's possible. Again, like from whose perspective, like outlaw, like whose law are they outlaws from? By whom are they considered outlaws? Again, clearly some of them are actual criminals with an actual criminal mindset in a collapse of society kind of way of life, right? The band particularly that Turin is going to connect with is going to be a band of people who are doing whatever they feel they can get away with doing, led by somebody who is leading through strength, right? And taking what he can through strength. And so that surely their band would be one of several, right, of that kind that lived in this area and preyed upon the homesteaders, the woodmen, because they are doing obliging things like growing and storing crops that could be stolen, right?
Yep.
Which the outlaws are presumably not doing. But could this category of again, if we're going to, we could lean more into simply the xenophobia of the woodman, and therefore have, like the Gaurwaith, the outlaws include people who are not criminals and who are not living like that and who are just refugees, and so therefore have that whole area. I mean, like essentially this area, the forest especially south of the Taiglin and west of the Syrian could be the home, scattered homes, like they're not like a nation or anything, but the scattered homes of people who are still branded as outlaws by the woodmen.
I think that it very much depends when the people came to the area. If they came prior to the Near Knife or during the near knife, then they most likely are outlaws in the traditional sense of someone who has been cast out of a society that existed and judged them.
Yes.
You need to leave.
Yes.
For whatever reason. If it's post near knife, then they probably are fleeing Dorloman as refugees.
Right.
So, and the woodsman might not care which of those they are, but I think that would be the distinction of, are the outlaws really outlaws, or are the outlaws misunderstood refugees? And it's like, well, when did they get there?
Right. Yeah. So you've got some criminals and some refugees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wind up with this interesting political situation where you have the woodsmen are calling all of these people, the Garwai, right? Yeah. But Handir and later Brandir know that, okay, it's not that simple, right? And then the woodsmen keep being like, we have all these Garwaith out here who are ruining our lives. Yeah. There's thousands of them, or whatever number,
hundreds at least. Yeah.
And you're not doing anything about it. And he's like, look, it's not the problem that you think it is.
Right. Well, that's if they talked, but I don't think they are talking to Hundir.
I think that this kind of conversation has been a part of the diminishing influence, of Amanolbo.
Right.
And picking up on Marie's point as well, you'd have, if I'm thinking of the deserters from the battle, who the refugees from Dorloman are not going to look upon with any great fondness. Like that will be a source of tension between those groups as well.
And also, I think refugees in general are trying to be families and find a place to live. And that's the goal or the purpose.
Right.
For the outlaws, family life doesn't seem to be the goal.
Right.
Establishing a place to live where they're going to be responsible for taking care of themselves, also not a goal. So if someone who was in the refugee camp joins the outlaws and lives like an outlaw, how are they different from the outlaws again? Right. So I think from the point of view of the woodsman, they're like, anyone who tries to steal our stuff is an outlaw because we don't care.
Right.
But I think also from the refugees' perspective, eventually they may reject like the deserters may try to rejoin their fellow countrymen.
Yes.
And be rejected
by them.
Oh, for sure.
And they would certainly be part of the criminal bands that are then, because now we have these warriors who are rejected by everyone and, as Tolkien might say, burdened by shame. And so would then also be, So I mean,
to outlawry.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then you're going to have like teenage sons of honest refugees who have been trying to provide, to help to provide subsistence for their families and struggling and can't and join them. But there's this strong guy who can like provide stuff, and they're, and so even doing things like stealing and raiding.
Seems a little bit like a Robin Hood figure to some people.
Right, exactly. And even if they're ashamed to do it, but it puts food on the table.
Right. If they were ashamed of what they did, right, they might try to like win back the good graces of, and even think of themselves as protecting their people even though they don't want to be protected.
Yes.
Right. And looking out for their people even though they don't want it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. Okay, so let's then think what demographics do we want represented in the original outlaw band? We could have one Dorloman murderer, like one convicted murderer from Dorloman. We could have at least one deserter. I'd be inclined to make the leader, the old leader of the band before Turin kills him, a deserter, but we can decide that later. Okay, so we're going to have at least one deserter from the near knife, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should have at least one. I would think at least one like outlaw from the Woodman, right? Like not from the House of Hador, but from the Haladin, who has been like banished, kicked out of his homestead or whatever, right, for criminal acts. So that we have that perspective. At least one honest, sort of honest, like ashamed refugee who felt he didn't have any other choice and would gladly do something different, but is following the strong leader and feeling uncomfortable about it, right? From Dorloman, like representing like the perspective of the honest refugees of Dorloman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think I could easily see one of those being in the band. Are there other perspectives that we want to?
I'm thinking of the soldiers who occupied the who were of the House of Baor prior to the House of Baor moving up to Dorloman, and how many of them would have found themselves without family when they came back, or for a whole host of things that could have happened. So there could have been small, very small, because I don't think that the House of Howleth would have tolerated this particularly well, but small bands of outlawry preceding even the New
Right. So an outlaw from Amanobel, basically, like outlawed by the Society Amanobel.
But specifically, a House of Baor from Dorthonion.
Yes.
After the Bragalach.
Right. Right.
So an old guy, but
an older guy born in Dorthonion, right? Born in Ladros, but who basically rejected the leadership of Emeldir, didn't follow them to Dorloman, and became an outlaw. Ended up an outlaw in Brethil because he which sort of began with his choice to not follow Emeldir.
We are 30 years past Dorthonion.
Right.
Well, 29.
So he's a hale, 60-something-year-old.
He could even be a 40-year-old guy. He could have been a kid when they arrived. I mean, he might have been a babe in arms from Ladros, theoretically.
Yeah, but just to point out the time frame, it's 30 years, so totally we can have people still alive who lived in Dorthonion.
How long was it when Emeldir led them to Dorloman?
It was about 7 years after.
Okay, so it was like 23 years ago?
Something like so. Okay. The Bragalach was in 455. Rian was 5 years old. Then when Emeldir went up, it was after the death of Andreth and the Baron and Luthien story, which was about 7 years of story time. And I believe Rian was about 12, 13 when she went to Luthien's wedding and then up to Dorloman. So from 5 to 12, so it's like 7-8 years,
Okay.
So it was about 7 to 8 years that all of the House of Baor was in Brethil.
Right, right. Okay, so for him to have made an independent and conscious choice not to follow Emeldir, he would have had to have been more or less an adult by then, which means he would had to have been, so let's call him, let's say his minimum age, let's say he would be like 20-ish when he chose to remain behind. So that would have made him 13 when he fled from Ladros. So he grew up in Ladros, but that means if he's 13, so he's 43.
Yeah,
so
42 years old.
Hey.
There we go. Our theoretical minimum of like the person in that perspective. Okay.
I'm trying to work out what was it because he married someone? Was it because why
didn't he go?
Was he an antisocial person anyway? Was he was he a criminal? Was he, so I think we need to have a reason why he's and why he then is the kind of person who would join an outlaw band.
What if this person married let's say that this person had a less than complete social development to start with, right?
Okay.
And he marries into the House of Howleth, or the people of the Haladin at this point, I would say. And then let's say for reasons unconnected to other stuff, the wife dies. right?
Okay.
And he was never particularly well integrated into the society.
Can his wife just kick him out?
Or his wife kicked him
I think
out.
so.
That's
I think
great.
so.
This way we don't fridge her.
I mean,
right. Here we go.
if he refugeed out of Ladros when he's 13, that's a pretty, kind of sensitive age to have a lot of trauma. We've talked about the responses of the House of Baer to that trauma. This is one of them.
And I would think
this guy's
that
a wife beater is what we're saying.
I'm saying that whatever he did, she didn't want it in her house anymore.
Right.
And she's from the people of Haleth, so she kicked him out.
She kicked him out, right? Yeah.
They trucked with none of that.
Right.
Yes.
I think that sets up why he ends up with the outlaws. So
right, and embittered, sure. I would think that there would be a fair chunk, not like a huge minority, but a fair chunk of the people of the House of Baer who simply were like, no,
This is our home.
Wait, like we left what like Emeldir, we've been following you, but like no, we're not moving again. Like we're just gonna stay here. Why should we move? We're staying here. We were here. I mean, I would think that there would be some that would simply just not want to go because they've had enough of being refugees and being.
But they're probably woodsmen now.
Yeah.
They wouldn't necessarily be outside of Brethel or
no. I agree. There still needs to be. We still need to separate him from his society one way or another. Yes. He's still that alone would not make them outlaws. Those who wanted to remain. I'm sure that there are members of the House of Baer still in Amenoble with Hundir right now.
Yes.
But
I would guess
most notably his wife.
Most notably his wife. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nick.
I like the idea of this guy. This seems like the sort of person who would be a part of the turn on the people.
Right.
Of the Haladin.
Yes.
That's you.
Yes. Okay. So my next question. How many members of the initial outlaw band are there? Roughly. Like, are we talking a band of 10? Are we talking a band of 30?
I feel there have to be at least 12 to start with because we know we're going to kill one for Turin to take over. And it should grow after Turin's there. So if it grows to be 30 to 50 people, fine, but it shouldn't start there.
I would say a couple of dozen guys would be able to effectively raid settlements, not just homesteads, but small settlements.
Right.
And be able to safely protect themselves in this rather chaotic situation. Also, like once you get up to 24 people, like the village is not getting together with pitchforks and going after these guys.
Right.
Because like if there's 10 of them, well, me and my neighbors get together and we hunt them down.
Make up a posse and go after them. Yeah.
Right. Right.
And of course it's like the obvious next, like the first step when you have the refugees and the outlaws and everybody wandering about is that one strong-willed person arises and forms a band. And the next step is one very strong person forms a larger band. And now all of a sudden you have, a rebel warlord who's going to go in and conquer things, right? Yeah. We're not at that stage yet. Like basically Turin is sort of interrupting that process, right? And him setting himself up instead as the leader of the war band with more benevolent purpose, sort of. Not initially, perhaps.
Until Bella gets there.
Right? Turin is the one who steps in and becomes, that other outlaw bands come and join because they're afraid of him, right? And know that they can't kill him. And so there's
your burgeoning warlord.
Yeah, exactly. Turin is the burgeoning warlord until Bella gets there, right?
Yes.
So the initial band, because the initial band, these are the ones that are gonna be characters, right? We may, we don't have enough time with them to be introducing new outlaw characters 2 episodes in, right? To them. So we have the one chance to get to know at least a little bit the people in the initial band. So let's say it's 20-ish, right? Somewhere around there. Strong enough to be a threat, not strong enough to be like a warlord who is going to, sack cities or anything like that. What
I'm thinking of like as a teacher, like managing a class of 20 adults. I teach adults.
Yes.
In terms of organizing people and so on, that's probably about the maximum for this kind of organization I'd be going for.
Yeah.
Well, you can do. So the army says that group is 50.
I was going to say one difference, of course, with the classroom.
You don't have a sword.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, Turin can beat them. Which you can't, presumably.
Yes.
So yeah, that does make it easier. Yeah.
But if they're sort of like this is an outlaw band that's somewhat self-organizing and as
right.
well. I mean,
yeah.
Before Turin shows up, there's a leader, but I'm just sort of thinking in terms of the interpersonal relationships between people and how they would coalesce as a group that feels that they're able to coordinate and do things together. I think any more than that requires that kind of top-down leadership. I think 20 is already pushing the boundaries of what's possible there.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that. I think I wouldn't want it to be big anyway. I wouldn't want it to look like he's taken over a military unit, right? The fun is him taking this small band of criminals and turning it into, a large military unit eventually. Yeah. So like that's kind of what we want to show Turin capable of doing, essentially, right? But okay, before we get to the people, which we're almost there, one last so we're so close to slide 2 here in this sequence. Anyway, my last question: Turin's pre-Beleg mindset. So when he comes in and he starts establishing himself as a warlord, on the one hand, like Turin is in a really liminal moral place, right? On the one hand, he comes in and with a much higher sense of morality than the others, right?
On the other hand, he does come in as I killed someone and now I'm an outlaw from Doriath.
Yes, exactly.
I too am like you, my fellow outlaw.
Right, we fit in. So, and when he leads them, they don't stop outlawing, right? Like
he has an added twist to that, which is I have suffered an injustice.
Yes.
My whole life, I have suffered an injustice.
Yes.
I suppose they all kind of
like that. He's carrying that chip on his shoulder.
Right. Which, as Nick suggests, probably there are others who think that way. Yeah.
That's quite explicit.
Quite explicit. Absolutely. But
once he realizes a bunch of these guys are from Dorloman, at what point does he think it's my job to be the lord of the men of Dorloman? And like, at what point does he think me leading the outlaw band is fulfilling his birthright?
That's
ever before Beleg shows up.
Right. That's one question. My second question, though, or my preliminary question before that, is he doesn't swear off attacking men or even elves until he meets Beleg again, right? Yeah. Which means presumably under his leadership, those bands were still raiding homesteads. He might have stopped them from raping the girls out in the fields, right? But so apparently he's drawing some lines that weren't drawn before. And yet he's so like, what does he think he's doing? Is this I don't care because I've been, or does he have some other construction here? Does he?
I think what he tries to do, is okay. This guy that was running this outlaw band, he could only handle, a dozen to a couple of dozen guys. I can do better than that. And then once we have a large enough group, say 30 to 50 guys, right, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, when we roll up, people are just like, just take it, whatever you want, just take it. right? So what he tries to do is institute a state where they use overwhelming force to cow people into giving their stuff up so that nobody gets hurt.
He's going to consolidate first. The very first thing he's going to do is consolidate, find other outlaw bands and impress them.
Yes.
Into his group.
Yeah.
So the first groups that he'd be attacking, the first groups of humans he'd be attacking would be other criminal outlaw bands.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Which he could tell himself means
oh my gosh,
he is stopping their predations, but he is also and he's also building his own power. Sorry, go ahead.
He's Negan. You have this tall, very charismatic guy who No.
Okay. Yeah.
How did this happen?
Maybe not quite as ruthless.
No. Of course not.
Because that's the thing. Like that's what I'm trying to square. Like,
yes.
Because it's been one of the things.
If you can justify, like, oh, not as many people will die, then I have improved the situation.
Right.
Yeah, we're still stealing everyone's stuff, but at least we're not slowing them.
But we're also protecting them. It's like they're supporting. They're just actually supporting us. They just don't know it, right? And we are raiding orcs. We are.
So what is the change that he makes then exactly when Beleg comes? How precisely do policies change? Because it's clear
the raiding just stops.
Well,
where are they getting their food from?
I know. Well, where are they getting the food from in the book?
We'll have to sort that out. Yeah, there has to be a change in. We are united against the common enemy of the orcs. Let's stop fighting other men and elves. This has to be the change.
That's
Beleg.
right. Yeah.
Well, maybe Beleg is able to arrange a line of supply support, like a la Republic/Resistance from Star Wars.
I think they could maybe, with the support, and if Turin brings together all of the refugees that are living scattered in the forest and forms them into a functioning community to support Dor Cuarthal,
yes.
Right? Then now they don't need to steal from anybody anymore.
Right.
But he's not
now it's taxes.
Right. Exactly. That's right. By all means, we must develop his tax policy. But let's But that shift, Marie, it's exactly it. Like, he's still fighting people, right? There still is Turin is still doing shameful things. Like after he gets there, the time between he kills the initial leader of the outlaw band and stops the rape in the book, in the Children of Hurin, up through when Beleg arrives, he's still doing things that he's ashamed of later. So he's consolidating his power, but he's got to be fighting somebody who's not criminal. I think he's got to be raiding, or, as you say, perhaps even just pressuring. Maybe he's levying some kind of tribute.
Sort of a mafia style.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
He runs
protection money.
Right. Exactly.
Money.
He's extorting tribute out of the woodmen.
Yeah. So the guys are willing to lean on. His guys are willing to lean on these people a little bit. Maybe break a couple of thumbs.
But he's stopped.
Nobody's dying.
As you say, he's stopped his own people from molesting the women, and
Yes, it's more civilized and organized now, but he is still living off of conflict with other humans, basically living in conflict and living off of conflict. He still is basically a criminal war leader. Basically, I mean, he's a
mafioso.
He's a mafia warlord who is asserting his will over other humans by force until Beleg comes. At which point, he shifts the focus to, no, we're going to fight the orcs. And I'm going to now build a constructive society to which some of the woodmen will probably join at that point. Not all of them, but the ones that don't, he'll leave them alone because they're not the point. They're not the problem. They're not the, yeah. Okay. All right. that middle period, like from when he takes over to when he joins with Beleg. That's been something I've been wanting to clarify for a long time. But let's get to our cast. Not cast.
Next slide.
Next slide. Let's actually do the next slide. Okay. So here are the cast of characters that Tolkien actually... These
I think it's the next one.
Yeah. These are the characters that Tolkien names. So we've got Forweg is the name of the guy who gets killed by Turin. We've got Endrog, and he's the sort of biggest character, the biggest minor character among the. He's the one with the bow who kills Mime's son and is made to break his bow, right, by Mime. Or by Turin in agreement with Mime. And he also is the one who is like resentful against elves and is alienated by Beleg's arrival. I mean, I know that's Mime also, but anyway, Androg is it's the single most important character. Larnach and his daughter are the two woodmen in that exchange, right? The Larnach's daughter is the one who is about to be raped by Forweg. And then Endrog has a son, and this is so cool. Like that he makes his way to the Havens, right? So one of the original members
we have to get this story out.
Yes. One of the original members of Turin's band is going to be like with Earendel at the Havens, like going to be one of Earendel's dudes at the Havens. Like, come on.
But more importantly, he talks to Deerhavel.
Right. Who can tell the story. Right. Yeah, exactly.
But the point is, he's somebody who met Turin, developed a relationship with Turin, and he lived
to tell the story.
There's not too many people that's true of.
That's true.
So I felt the need to really point it out that we have one hopeful survivor.
That really is the number of named characters who meet Turin and survive is exceptionally low.
Yeah, it's like Nellis, this guy, and Aaron, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. No, so this guy's great. I would want to.
Well, we don't know what happens to Aaron.
No, we don't know what happens to Aaron.
like we leave her.
Yeah.
Like,
she survives her encounter with Turin. We don't know what happens after.
Right.
You're
exactly.
Right.
I'm actually really interested to write the later story of Iron. However we decide to do that, I think it's going to be interesting.
I always imagine she didn't survive very long after that.
The burning of the hall always seemed to me like a rather farewell-ish gesture. That's always the impression I've gotten from the text. It doesn't say anything, but it's never invited me to imagine a long and fruitful career thereafter. But anyway, okay, so Anvir. I'm excited about Anvir. I want to make Anvir I want Anvir to be a major character. Like, this is the beginning of the run of a character who is going to survive through season 12. Like, I want this guy to be on the boat with Elros, basically. Like, seriously, like,
what a career.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, this is an amazing opportunity. Just somebody to be like this involved in the Turin story and to get all the way through to the Havens and everything.
Like Elros's like Minister of State
or something, right? Yeah, like for this guy to,
he's not gonna survive that long. He makes it to the Isle of Valar. He's an old man when he meets Deerhavel. Depending on how
long is it going to be?
Years,
how much time are we going to have pass? We haven't decided that.
We haven't decided. One version of the story is 590 is the end of the first age,
right?
And we're in 484 here.
Okay,
so it's a little too long.
It's a little too long for him to.
But who knows? Because that is a very messy part of the timeline.
And I'm I'm kind of, again, for the same reason that we compressed the genealogies and stuff and the timeline to some extent earlier on, I think we may end up wanting to do a similar thing for similar reasons. Because
his children could be on the boat with Elros.
For sure.
Maybe.
For sure.
Yeah.
There has to be enough time for people to evacuate Beleriand.
Sure.
That's the only real stipulation.
And well, I mean, we have to get Elros and Elrond born, so we have to have enough years go by so that happens. I mean, there's a few things that need 20 years.
Right. But in any case, whether he makes it all the way to Numenor or not, Anvir is going to be like right there, elder statesman, friend of Eärendil.
Yeah, so you had suggested a time or two ago that you wanted a point of view character among the outlaws who was noble and was like catching on to Turin's vision of what this could become.
Yes.
So not one of the old grizzled guys who had lived as an outlaw for 30 years and that's all he knew, but like somebody who was different. I mean, I guess it could be an old guy who also
this could be
caught the
our refugee young guy that we were talking about before.
Right. So the question is, do you want to use Andvir as the young noble character who's different than his father, or do we want to pull in an unrelated refugee character for that role to be the noble outlaw?
Or could it be both things?
Yeah. I'm not...
Could Andvir be the son of a refugee woman who Andrag has been seeing?
Oh, stepson of Andrag, sorta.
That's not what I was thinking.
No, you were thinking son of Andrag in the sense, in the like a son that he
Andrag's killed a woman.
Sired.
He's a murderer who's killed a woman, isn't he?
Yes, which is why
he was exiled from Dorloman prior to the Near Night, so it's possible he's been in this area long enough to have met a woodsman girl and had a son. Right? Like that's
okay. So Anvir could be the son of Andrag, but he would on the one hand, and so he is like House of Hadar on both sides, but he would be ashamed of his father, but also following his father, and his mom would be telling him stories about Turin and the House of Hadar, and so he could be the noble refugee person.
If his mom led Dorloman due to the Easterling invasion, that was only 12 years ago.
Right.
So if she only got to this area after that, he would be 10 when Turin shows up.
Unless
if he's born in Dorloman,
right?
That's different.
Yeah.
Does he have to be the son of Androg?
He doesn't have to be the son of Androg.
He doesn't have to be. But...
I mean, Tolkien said so.
Right.
I mean, that's good enough reason for me to try to work with it.
I think the age thing is why I was originally thinking of him being the stepson of Androg. Like if the refugee woman whom Androg connects with brought a babe in arms out of, a child out of, then Anvir could not be the son of Androg, but could be functionally the stepson of Androg. And that would enable him.
Story that this could be.
Yeah.
The woman that Androg murdered could have been his wife when she found out about Andvir.
In other words, it's Andvir is born in Dorloman from an affair Andrag was having, and then the wife gets murdered, and then for whatever reason, when
whose wife gets murdered? The wife of
Andrag's wife gets
I don't know. Somebody gets murdered, but then the point is Andrag goes into exile with his son from the affair or from the wife, or I don't know.
He could bring her with him too. Like that it's not necessarily that he has to leave her behind. The mom, Anvir's mom.
Okay, so he is a fair partner, and the baby leave Dorloman.
Yes, he's not leaving. Okay. He's not leaving with a baby by himself. This guy.
Right. Yeah. No. He doesn't seem like Mr. Mom to me. But yeah. So, sorry, Ilana, what'd you say?
He's banished for murder.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
the murder of his wife.
Take his mistress with him.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like that.
It's like people who are outlawed who are.
She's obviously not very smart if she goes with him after that.
She wasn't very smart to begin with.
Right. So no, this is all tarnishing Anvir in ways that I don't like. So
okay, fair enough.
I want Anvir. I don't mind Anvir being Androg's son.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I'm almost happier with him being Androg's 10-year-old son.
So maybe he takes his son with him, not the mother of the son.
Well,
and
yeah, but like again, I agree with Nick that I don't see Androg as Mr. Mom, so I don't suspect that like he, the convicted criminal, is going to be leaving town with a 2-year-old and carefully nurturing it on his own.
No, but a 10-year-old maybe.
A 10-year-old, perhaps.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking the 10. That was when you said 10-year-old that I was thinking, and he might be the sort of person who says, you know, like, I'm taking my son with me. You know, like, he's mine. Right. You know, if he's that kind of a person, he's not a nice person.
No, he's not a nice person.
Yeah.
No, when I was saying 10-year-old,
easier because, like, I can assure you, I am not leaving town with this.
Yes, right. No, I was thinking 10-year, like, let him be 10 when Turin comes. I would not hate that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to have some years of the story. So he'll be 14 to 16 when the Outlaws are done.
Yeah.
So he will have grown up in the outlaw.
Yeah.
Community.
And so he can now be the son of
a refugee woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I was because I mean I don't think it's perfect, but I wouldn't have. I mean, he does. I don't need him to be like a hardened member of the band.
Yeah.
Right. Like, in fact, it's kind of cooler if he's not. Actually, he's still like complicit. He would. Right. Well, he's like, you know. Yeah. I mean, Androg brings him around. Like Androg is trying to train him up, you know, or whatever, to be a criminal outlaw, right? Like, it's like, you know, take your kid to work day for Androg. So, you know, I don't think he takes him with him on the rape, but, you know, like,
how old is Turin there?
How Turin is like total from
in with the Outlaws. Not a whole lot of time.
No, it's several years, isn't it?
So Turin is 19 when he gets there, and it's at least 5 years before Meme betrays them.
All right, so yeah,
he could be 15.
This could be 15, like
at the end.
Yeah, that tracks for me.
Yeah, so he's like,
kid is prime age. 15-year-old kids join gangs all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, he's a 10-year-old kid when he joins the gang, but he's no. So like he you know, he's gonna become like, he can become like Turin's little squire. You know what I mean? Like,
I was about to say, I imagine if he's 10, his role is like cabin boy kind of thing.
Exactly. He's the cabin boy of the outlaw band.
He's the helper.
Yeah. Probably like running errands, like, you know, bringing stuff to and fro between his mom and Androg and whatever.
He's
like,
Gavroche.
Exactly. That's precisely who he is. Yeah, exactly. So he's not involved in the fighting or presumably the more like horrible criminal acts, but he's there in the camp, right? You know, he's there in the camp. And the nice thing about that position for him is that it gives him, he might have been quite recently come to the camp. Like he's been connected. Androg's his dad, right? But he's only like, Androg recently like said, okay, like it's time to make a man of him, right? Like let's bring him to the band. But he's grown up with his mom, so he has the honest refugee Dorloman perspective, right?
Yes.
From his mom, and he therefore will know enough and will have absorbed enough from his mom to be ashamed of his father. And yet not totally separated from his father either.
It would be neat to have them kind of reconcile a little bit as the activities of the outlaw band get less antagonistic. Yeah,
I would think so.
Although I imagine mom's none too happy that he's there.
Right. No, definitely not. And mom would be much happier. But, because see, then the mother is somebody whom we could make the like spokesperson, representative. Like, we're not going to have time to develop a ton of characters. But if Turin is going to begin building the refugees into a society, Anvir's mother can be the face of that demographic, right?
Of people who have gotten some predation at the hands of these outlaws too.
Yes, who have suffered some from some outlaw, one outlaw band or other, and who have suffered from exclusion from and the hostility of the woodmen, right? The xenophobia of the woodmen, and have been cowering and living this horrible subsistence life, but who have memory of greater things, right? Who have memory, who remember the time, under Hurin and Morwen in Dorlomen. And so she can be like the spokesperson and face of that group of people. And Anvir is a convenient connection. Like, the fact that he's a kid actually makes it even easier to introduce the mom into that story. Because Turin would want to meet Anvir's mother. Like Anvir would bring his mom, right? And
what sort of relationship does Androg and this woman have at that point? Do they have a relationship still, or because Androg can be a bit of a bridge as well.
I would think that Androg had to have been a marriage of convenience for Anvir's mother. Yeah. Like, she was on her own. She needed protection. She needed a man to help work her land or whatever.
Are we assuming that it even
was
got
consensual?
To the level of, well, no, I was going to say even was marriage of convenience.
Right.
Or more just, well, she has this kid now.
Right. I mean, this, of course, gets us straight into like marriage customs among the Edain, and we know they have weddings, right? Yes. But at the same time, it's not uncommon for much more informal, a much less hard and fast.
I can imagine this being a more informal relationship. We don't have to call it out as such, but
Andrag was with the leader when they were chasing the girl through the woods.
Totally.
And Turin surprised them.
Yes.
So he's fine with that level of a casual, not entirely remotely consensual interaction.
Yeah.
But he has rights to Anvir because he's the father.
Because he's the father.
And so he's going to claim those rights. So I can imagine that's not a comfortable relationship. I'm also trying to think of Androg as the murderer of a woman in his earlier life. But there's all sorts of circumstances where that could have happened. He may feel he's been dealt wrongly.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure he does. Was it his wife, you think, that he murdered?
Most likely scenario.
Like, thought his wife was cheating on him, or maybe she was, and he killed her?
He can be quite possessive and like that kind of,
I was going to say the percentage of women who are murdered by romantic partners, former or otherwise, is pretty much high.
Yes.
So if you're going to be murdered, that's who's going to murder you.
So he's got that sense of possessiveness.
Yes.
He's going to take his son whether she wants him to join the outlaws or not.
Yes.
But he's not. So I'm just like going, okay, at the point at which Turin now is trying to bring her into interacting with the outlaws, that's going to be a dynamic we're going to have to track.
But I think there is some. When Turin arrives, he immediately starts making improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that would necessarily redeem Androg in the eyes of Anvir's mother. I mean, unless there was a real relationship of a kind there, and it's not like she hates him. She just she's just
Yeah, are they
tired of his nonsense.
Are they co-parenting this child, or does he just show up and demand the kid? Like,
I think the latter.
I think the latter. And what I'm imagining also is that she does hate him, but she's a wise woman.
Yes.
And she can see the prudence of interacting with Turin, but she wants nothing to do with, and she's also concerned about the welfare of her son, and she's playing I can imagine she's actually quite canny about all of this.
Okay.
Having been through, because Androg to me seems like a violent person, a person who is, feels that women are his possessions and can do with them what they look like.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine his murder of a woman was not part of a pattern of domestic abuse. I mean,
so she can have been, and she can consider herself kind of like, I'm out of that now. Like I got away from that.
Yeah.
She's not happy about him taking the son. She knows.
But at least with his son out of the picture, at least she's more or less free of this dude.
Well, but without her son. Anyway, sorry.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not. Yeah, no, I get that.
She's not worried that he's going to, he's not going to kill the son to spite her type thing, which also happens, right?
Right.
And it sounds like they're not. They are not actively in a domestic violence abusive relationship situation.
No, that's what I think that's in the past now.
Right.
He accepts he doesn't have her now, but he's got his son. And we don't have to show that actually happening.
And she would be especially appreciative of Turin, because Turin is the sudden eucatastrophe of her life here, right? Because Turin, now her son, who is just taken away from her basically by this violent scumbag with whom she's had this complicated relationship for years, and she's been practically mourning her son, right? Like he's now either dead or going to be a rapist outlaw like his dad, right? And now all of a sudden the son of the Lord of Dorloman has come and is transformed things, and now she sees her son separating himself from his father and instead following Turin, the Lord of Dorloman, right? And like,
that's a good
like
idea.
for her, like this is going to be like, she's all about this, right?
So this works.
This works for her. Liz totally works for her. And again, so with her being the voice of the Dorloman in exile, which is rallying around Turin, and which sees his arrival as this catastrophic deliverance, that story really works well to emphasize that. So the Algund character, the man of Dorloman, who was the oldest of the outlaws and who knew Hurin and therefore supports Turin. I think that's a voice that we do want, a voice of someone who knows Hurin. I think that's a really I think that great choice by Tolkien there.
Prime deserter though.
What?
Could this be our deserter?
Well, I was wondering about that.
Forweg's a deserter.
Forweg, I think I was going to make. Yeah, we were making a deserter.
For sure.
Tolkien also made him a deserter.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. There's that.
But the idea of Algund trying to redeem himself over time with he would see Turin as a shot at feeling redeemed.
Yeah, the thing about him is because he's more of a moral conscience kind of guy, he doesn't seem like a hardened criminal or like someone who even fits with the outlaws.
Right.
He's there. That's where he ended up in life. But Turin's direction is something he's very much going to support and get behind.
Or it could have been a buddy of his.
Right.
When they deserted. Yeah.
Right. And they deserted together. They've done this whole thing together. And Algund recognizes
how far they've fallen.
Right.
And maybe it takes Turin showing up for that to become really...
In the same way that it takes Belig showing up to
Turin
back in.
Yeah. If Algund is kind of Forweg is the stronger personality of the two, and so he is drawn. Algund's first choice would not be a life of outlawry and murder in the forest, but Forweg is a strong colleague, and Algun goes along with him until Turin comes, and now Algun can go along with him, and which is what he would have wanted to do. So he's in that way not a strong character himself, right? But would be could still be a kind of moral voice for.
He feels more comfortable in a supporting role.
Yeah. Yes. So how do we define then Turin's relationship with Androg? Because we have depicted
it's really only chance that he killed Forwig instead of Androg.
Right.
In that encounter.
Right. Androg was in line for it.
Androg knows this.
Right. So Androg's career, just to recap Androg's career as we've established it, he was probably a wife beater who eventually kills his wife and is for that condemned and banished from Dorloman, ends up coming down and at best shacking up with possibly less than entirely consensually with a refugee from the Easterling invasion. Anvir's
he
mom.
Was probably on his own, like outlawed essentially on his own in the wilderness until he ran into Forwig.
Right. And he runs into Anvir's mom, who obviously needs a name because she's going to be a significant character here.
She could have been banished not that long before the Near Ninth. I mean, as long as it's before.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Androg doesn't have to have been there a whole hugely long time. But anyway, so he connects himself into this, like, on again, off and again, or part-time or visiting relationship with Anvir's mom, begets Anvir, checks in often enough to know that he has a son and to know that his son is growing older. But
wants nothing to do
with
baby Anvir.
Yeah, with baby Anvir, no, for sure. But once Anvir has become a strapping lad of 10, he's like, I'm gonna take him, and there might be some spite involved in this, taking him away from his mother as well. And that's when Turin meets him. Well, yes. Turin meets him in the middle of like running after to it, in the middle of an attempted rape, basically. So we have Androg's character being consistently horrible in particular towards women, all the way through the time when he meets Turin. Androg's story, like Androg's involvement, is very strong throughout the rest of, again, as Tolkien wrote the story. Are we going to have him repenting? Is he going to change? And if so, how and like at what rate?
I don't think his opinion of women is ever going to change because we don't need it to. And that seems like an unlikely change to have at this point in his life.
He's probably quite impressionable for like strong leader alpha men, so right. He followed Forwig, right? He's going to follow Turin because Turin's a strong leader.
So the arc we do see with him is that when Beleg first shows up, he's like, all right, let's kill this guy and I'll steal his bow. Like, that's his opinion of Beleg. And then he's mad that that's not how that goes.
Right.
And then at the end, after the camp has been raided by orcs and Beleg is tied up again, just not by him this time, he's the one who unties Beleg and prevents Mime from killing Beleg.
Right.
So his opinion of Beleg has changed enough that he saves an elf as his last act because he dies. He was mortally wounded in the attack.
Right.
Yeah. So it seems to me that it's Beleg who makes
it. Sounds like a Beleg story. Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Because in a sense, his own Androg's own attitude doesn't change. I mean, like, he's as grumpy and he's as much of a jerk to Mime as I mean, so like he can remain an unpleasant person almost all the way through.
He's somebody who's not like he definitely is going to accept, like, he's cowed by Turin. Like he's there's something a bit cowardly about him. I think that's why he's like picks on women.
Of course. Yes.
Right.
So he's going to, like, on the surface be a loyal follower of Turin, but anyone else is fair game. He can kick down.
Right. And again he's resentful against Meme. There's real tension there. Because it was Meme that makes him swear the vow.
The bow thing. Yeah. Because he murdered Meme's son.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the trick here is to have Androg basically not just like, he doesn't become a good guy. He's still a jerk. But he is loyal to Turin. I agree, Nick, with you. This real story seems to be his relationship with Beleg. So it's really a Beleg story, even more than a Turin story.
It reminds me of the movie The Patriot, where you have the guy who's racist at the beginning towards the slave who's been signed up somewhat unwillingly to fight in the revolution, and then by the end of it, his attitude towards him is completely changed. It's kind of like that. Like, this is somebody who's still going to be kind of an unsympathetic character.
Yes.
But even that unsympathetic character is allowed to have a positive change in their in some respects.
Yes.
So what about his relationship with his son?
Yeah. And well, it could be his relationship with his son that, like, and Beleg's observation of that helps foster that change, right? His relationship with his son at the beginning, if we're saying that him taking his son into the camp is a recent development, is certainly going to be strained, but his son probably knows that there's no disobedience.
Well, but I've also got to think, Turin's met the mom. Turin knows the whole situation, and he's got to be on the mom's side, in the sense, like, he knows that Androg did not treat her well and was not treating her. So, like, I'm not saying that Turin is in turn taking Anvir deliberately away from Androg, but not in the same way that Androg was trying to take him away from his mom. But I think that there is a sense in which Turin is kind of like going to be sort of quasi-adopting Anvir, right? As his, like...
But I think Anvir is going to look up to
Turin.
Exactly. Oh,
exactly.
Sure.
I mean, that'll absolutely go both ways. But there'll be a... there's no question that Anvir is going to see Turin as his, like, preferred father figure over Androg.
So if taking Anvir away from his mother was partly a spite thing, maybe Androg actually isn't all that invested in being a father to this.
No, I don't think he is.
Taking the kid in, and
he likes having somebody to go grab his pipe and foods.
That's right. But he's quite happy for the other outlaws to take responsibility for, whatever. Yeah. Like, he's not. So if that's the case, then if Anvir is, it could be quite tense when Turin shows up, and then because Anvir's feeling like I've been taken away from my mum and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
Maybe it gets better after Turin, and Androg by that stage is like, whatever, like, if you want to follow Turin's footsteps, that's fine, go knock yourself out.
Oh, wait a second. And Ilana, I'm just thinking, Anvir is not going to be that much older than Turin was when he left Morwen. So Turin's going to be remembering that for sure. Like, he's like not just his surrogate son, he's his surrogate self, right?
Okay. We can work with that.
So if Anvir is 10 years old, Turin is 19. So he's 9 years older than this guy, which is big brother, but big brother who's old enough to be the parent in many situations.
Also big brother who's grown up rough. So yeah.
So yeah,
Turin's got to be a pretty old 17. Like he's
right.
I don't
So,
yeah.
and he's been raised by elves at this point too.
Right.
I mean, if Anvir is indeed a strapping lad, like, with potential to be a great warrior one day,
Yes.
kind of,
Yes.
he's going to, actually relish the opportunity to learn what Turin has to teach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've decided that.
And Turin.
Yeah, go ahead.
It cannot be clear. It cannot be overstated. The level, even if Turin was not like a specimen, right?
Yeah.
The level of training, martial training that he would have received would so far surpass, like there's no contest.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Between these guys and Turin. And if Turin starts teaching this kid what Turin knows.
Yes. Yes.
Like this kid is on his way to winning a fight with dad quick.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, that's true.
Yeah,
yep.
we could have that. But so even before Beleg shows up, even before the outlaw band changes, like Turin changes his conception of what this is, we can already have that relationship developing.
Yeah, I would think that the relationship between Anvir and Algund would be the two things which would immediately be like, even before Beleg, like drawing him into positive directions, right?
Yes.
And we could even depict Androg as kind of a bad influence in the early days,
yeah, like you can't stop the men from doing this. Like they'll never go for that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah. Okay. Well, so my number one take home from today is that like I want to involve Anvir in every story we possibly can from now to season 12. Like I'm ready. Like I
feel like he's the replacement for Hamilcar that we.
I'm telling you, like Anvir is my favorite character now. Like. I'm thinking he can be like, I mean, just there's almost nothing involving humans that Anvir can't do from now on.
He's the season 7 Norn.
Oh yeah, I mean, except bigger. He's gonna have a longer career because, of course, we had we were
compressing time along.
Yeah, exactly. We had more years passing back in those days, right? Now we can have a human character that lasts 5 seasons, which we couldn't do.
Is Anvir in Brethel when Turin shows back up?
That was a question I had. He might go south before then.
That seems like a season 9 question.
Yeah,
it is.
He will survive the attack on Amanrud, and he will eventually end up in the Havens. He could be in Brethel when Turin is there if we want him. But we're probably not going to answer where he goes. Like we might not even realize that he survives the battle immediately.
Yeah. My impulse, though, Ilana, is to say he's not, because I can't see how that character could be in Brethil and not, like, be with Turin when he fights Glaurung, right? Like, obviously, Anvir would be the guy right below Turin on the cliff, right? Like, Hunthor and Anvir, totally, right? So, like, yeah, no, I don't think, and I don't think we can have him do that. I don't think we can introduce a character.
We've got enough characters.
Right. If Turin has like a really good and surviving Batman through that entire sequence, it totally changes the Turin's.
We have already seen a very young Hunthor on screen.
Right. Very young. That's right. with Brandir when he got injured, right? Like back in those days?
Well, actually in the
celebration before Gondolin, right?
The captain that gets killed.
Right. Yep. Yeah, no, that's cool. All right. So that's good. Olrad, we didn't talk about Olrad. He could be our Beor guy. Yeah. He could be our Beor guy. Okay. Good. Awesome. All right. Yeah. Oh, totally. Gregory Simonson on YouTube says he joins Hurin's group. Absolutely. Like, Anvir needs to play a leading role in the wanderings of Hurin.
That's such a great idea.
Totally.
Ulrad and Andrag are now best friends.
Yeah. Who?
If Ulrad is our Beorian who got kicked out by his Haladin wife, Him and Androg are best friends.
Him and Androg are like unconstructive drinking buddies. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Agreed. Both just complaining loudly about how evil women are all the time. Probably. Yep. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I can imagine it. Yeah. No, that's great. Oh, and by the way, Anvir totally like encounters and helps Morwen in the wild. Like totally.
We have said that one of the issues is how does she get from Dorloman to Doriath without going through Brethel. Not that she can't go through Brethel, but that no one in Brethel can recognize Nienor later. So whoever she does encounter in the trip has to be someone who isn't going to be like, that's the person who I saw with Morwen.
Right.
So if it's a little woodsman hut somewhere that just never happens to communicate with Turin when he's Mormuggle, like, it could happen.
Yep, I agree. I think that season 9, but no later than season 9, even though Anvir is not going to be playing a role in Turin's story after Aman-Ruth.
He can play Morwen's story and Hurin's story.
Exactly. I think we need to in the pre-production segment of season 9, we will need to be laying out much more of the Anvir story. Where he goes after Aman-Ruth and everything else. But we'll leave that for now. All I know is that Anvir is going to be one of my favorite characters in all of SilmFilm now. Like I'm very excited about this. It's gonna I can't wait to like see this guy like on board a ship with Earendil and like, oh man, it's going to be awesome.
We don't have time to address all of it, but I just gotta say that Evan's commentary.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I appreciate Evan's commentary throughout the discussion. Yeah, awesome. Cool. Okay, so we have all right. Good. I got to the third slide here, Marie. We talked about these things.
What?
That's good. Yeah. No, I think we. Yeah. Good. We answered all the questions. Excellent. Okay, so next time, our next session will be on March 5th. So not 2 weeks, but 3 weeks from now. Because I won't be here in 2 weeks, but I will be here in 3 weeks. So March 5th, Thursday, March 5th. And we'll be back. What are we doing next? Because we've totally finished this, obviously. Nothing more to be said.
Elven storylines in more detail.
Aha.
Right. So you can choose whether we talk about Doriath or when we talk about the Havens. Because Círdan has some stuff going, Isle of Valar stuff going on, and Gondolin people coming. Like, there's a lot going on with the Havens. We do need to sort that story out at some point.
That's really tempting. But let's start with Doriath, because let's kind of go chronologically a little bit. Like, having just put our minds here in this area, let's go backwards one step rather than going backwards 2 steps later on. So yeah, let's do Doriath. It's also the bigger and most pressing thing, and then we'll get to the Havens.
All right, and the Doriath part does include Galadriel as well.
Yes, yeah,
and Celeborn.
Yes,
and Celeborn.
Well, yes, the whole Doriath.
yes. Galadriel, Celeborn, Thingol, Mablung, Beleg, Nelas, Cyros, the political dynamics of that situation. We haven't really spent time, apart from Celeborn, with the advisors of Thingol since season 3. You know, we kind of laid the foundations then, but we haven't truly been back like that for
a long time.
Yeah, for a long time. So reestablishing that, Galadriel and Celeborn under current circumstances, and then the relationship with Turin, the relationship with Morwen, the trial, the pardon, all that stuff. Kind of making sure that and filling in the other later gaps, right? Like poor Mablung, right? Who shows up again, having been wandering for goodness knows how long, showing up too late at the end, right? Like what has Mablung been doing since he crawled into the gates of between crawling into the gates of Nargothrond and finding Turin at the very end, right before he commits suicide? Like, anyway, so yeah, these are all things to be talking about next. Okay, so we'll do the Doriath stuff next time. That'll be good. We're starting to get there. I'm starting to feel a little better. Like it's beginning to, not quite, but it's beginning to feel almost like a episode, a season outlining time, really being able to lay that out. Indeed, we have a bunch of the framework for that already, but being able to really go through and do a synopsis episode by episode, I feel like we're getting closer now. Awesome. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate everybody joining me today. And I will say, as always, thanks for listening and Godspeed.